We can now go across to France 24's Catherine Noor-Strand standing by in Sderot. Catherine, good afternoon to you. The IDF says Gaza City is encircled. What does this mean exactly, and has a new phase started?
Yep, Israel's army is saying that it has entered a new phase of its offensive on Gaza. The IDF reporting that Gaza City in the north of the Gaza Strip is encircled now, and that means that they will be pushing on to a perilous new phase of this ground operation, which will involve now intense urban warfare. That is set to be extremely complicated for Israel's forces because it's very dense urban zone, lots of narrow streets and alleyways, buildings, of course. Hamas has a tunnel network there. And, of course, they've had time to prepare for this offensive. Hamas reporting that they are fighting back and are causing Israeli casualties. What I can tell you here from this front line, just a couple of kilometers from the edge of the Gaza Strip there, we can hear intensive fighting continuing. So I'm hearing the thud of artillery, the crackle, of gunfire, which indicates that ground war continuing. We've been hearing warplanes overhead and the sound of drones. So this military operation clearly still in an intensive phase. And this is sparking even more fears for the plight of civilians in Gaza. We know that lots of them are still in the north of Gaza, including in Gaza City. They haven't evacuated. Israel has called on civilians to get out of the north of the Gaza Strip, calling it a war zone. But even in the south of the Gaza Strip, in Khan Yunis, there's again been more bombing, more airstrikes reported there, more civilian deaths reported there. And the UN and other aid organizations have repeatedly been saying that there is no safe place to go. And increasingly, we're hearing from inside Gaza that the north is becoming cut off from the south of the Gaza Strip with Israeli armored vehicles positioned on a key road there. So it's very difficult to know how remaining civilians can shelter as that death toll continues to rise.
Catherine, you mentioned the civilians. You mentioned that the United Nations has said that there is no safe place in Gaza. So it begs the question then, why has Israel sent back Palestinian day laborers who were stranded in Israel, in the West Bank, in the aftermath of October 7th? Why have they sent them back to Gaza?
The Israeli Security Council on Thursday night announced that it was cutting all ties with Gaza, suspending all the thousands of work permits that had been issued in recent days to citizens from Gaza, Palestinians who were allowed at times through the checkpoint to come and work in Israel, many of them as laborers. And that was providing an economic lifeline for many of those people. It was a measure designed to try and combat poverty inside the Gaza Strip, perhaps prevent people from turning to radicalization, from supporting Hamas. So there were thousands of Gazans who came across every week to work inside Israel, around 18,000. Many of them were present on Israeli soil on October the 7th, on that day more than 3 weeks ago now, when Hamas launched that horrific deadly attack which killed 1,400 Israelis. And so Gazan citizens, thousands of them, were arrested by Israeli forces, some of them placed in detention centers, and they've been held since then. They've been talking out about what they say were very harsh conditions for them in detention. And now, this Friday, Israel has bussed thousands of Gazan workers back to the border of the Gaza Strip down in the south at Kerem Shalom, and has told them to walk back inside Gaza into that active war zone there.
Catherine, thank you very much for that. Catherine Noor-Strand reporting that for us.